Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia. Hey everybody, how you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful day, night, evening, afternoon, wherever you're at, wherever you're listening or watching. Welcome to a brand new Ike Live show. Guys, listen to me for a second. I got a really, really good one for you today. I know I say that a lot, but I got a really, 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 really good one for you today. Joining us in just a second here, Jordan Lee, coming on the show. Been on the show many a times before, but this is his first time on the new version of the show, which is just going to be Jordan and I just shooting the shit. Can't wait to have him on. Let me remind you, this podcast is brought to you by Abu Garcia, the maker of great rods and reels. Head on over to abugarcia.com. Check out some of the stuff they got. They got some great new stuff, including the Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels, now available. Also brought to you by Tackle Warehouse. Everyone I know shops at Tackle Warehouse. Go over to tacklewarehouse.com. Some great exclusives over there, guys. Let me remind you, Tackle Warehouse doing all these cool exclusive colors, exclusive shapes, exclusive sizes that you can't get anywhere else. Really, really cool deal. Head on over to Tackle Warehouse. And the Ike Series Abu 3.0 stuff is available there too, as well. Also brought to you by the Ike Foundation, getting new kids fishing one at a time. Head on over to the ikefoundation.org and find out how you can get involved with that. Also, I just wanted to mention that the Ike Live hats and t-shirts are now back in stock. So head on over to ikelive.com. Click on the hat, the t-shirt. You can get them now, a lot of sizes and stuff. So get your swag as well. I don't want to wait anymore. I've been waiting too long. This interview's long overdue. Joining us now on Ike Live, the one and only Jordan Lee. Jay Lee,
what's going on, man?
How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. Great.
I'm so happy we finally caught up. This has been a long time in the making.
Yeah,
we tried to make this happen last year. Your schedule got crazy. My schedule, dude, it's been crazy. That might be a great place to start. How's the off season been? Has this craziness continued? Have you had some time to chill out with the family? What's happening?
Yeah, man, it's been good. It's been busy, but I find time to also kind of disconnect a little bit. I mean, for us, I feel like half the year really we do have a lot going on as far as travel. Yeah, on from home, and then the other half of the year, that's when you're trying to figure out, hey, what I need to do, what makes the most sense as far as, content wise, just trying to keep everybody happy. Yeah. Also, family time. And for me, and, I've done a little bit of both. But obviously I've kind of disconnected at least over the last month too. And it really, set myself up good for this spring and, feel kind of refreshed. Just so that's what I've been doing. But I
think it's good to do that. I agree with you. I think some kind of disconnect is like good for the soul, right? It's like refreshing. And I see a lot of guys do that with hunting. I see some guys do it like literally they just fall off the face of the earth for 3 months. I think that's a good thing. Is that this?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, different years I feel different. But man, I got a 3-year-old too now, and I mean, he's getting at that fun age, and I love spending time with him, even though it's a lot of work. I mean, people with kids know I only got one. I just can't imagine people with 3 and 4 kids like you do.
It's a lot of,
but
it is a lot of work.
And it just one, I'm like, man, I don't know how people do this. I don't know how they survive, but it's been fun, man. He's at that age now where, I mean, he knows when I'm home and I'm gone and all that, but he's kind of, he's playing sports a little bit, and just outside, not like going to, we're not going to the ball field yet, but I mean, that's been fun just to, that's just part of life that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. It's magical. There's nothing like being a dad, being a father. It's a magical thing. I did want to jump back though. You mentioned the business side, and obviously, I think some anglers assume turning it off means there's no business. There's
Mhm.
always business. And I
Always.
know we've talked a bit over the off season. I know you've been hustling with the business side. Here's my question. People watching us, Jordan, we got a ton of people watching us that are like, man, I want to do this, right? They're aspiring.
Yeah.
And it's great. And they're watching us right now and they're saying, Jordan Lee don't have a tough time with business. Like things aren't tough. It's not hard work for Jordan. He's won 2 classics for crying out. Sponsorships can't be tough for him.
Right.
It's tough. Like it's tough for me. It's tough for you. Talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Classic isn't like a guarantee of business success.
It's not a guarantee. I felt like for me personally, when I won the classics, after I won, it wasn't really the first one. I understood what that meant back then. So it's almost been, it's been 8 years or so.
Yeah.
And it took me until the next year when I won to realize, Jordan, you really have to make the most of this.
Yeah.
In every way possible. And I mean, you're 25 at the time. Or I was 25. And so was I a little business savvy? I mean, I went to school, I understood business, but as far as dealing personally with relationships with companies, that's something that you don't, I feel like you kind of got to mature into in the fishing game. And that's something I had to learn after that first classic. I mean, I didn't think I was going to get that opportunity again, but I did. And I really made the most of it. In my opinion, I look back and man, I did it right. I set myself up for success back then, financially, just and really just dealing with the companies that I'm still dealing with today. I mean, I felt like in a lot of those companies, a lot of the boat, Ranger boats, going down the list, Yamaha, I switched, that was the time frame when I transitioned to deal with different companies, and it was just the right time. But since then, not a lot has changed. I've had some, non-endemics come and go. Man, it's getting to the point now, and I've turned down some deals that were pretty good, to be honest with you, that it just didn't make sense. But overall, the sponsorships they've kind of stayed level for me.
Right.
At a time where, everything's kind of, I mean, how it is, your social stuff grows a little bit. It doesn't grow rapidly in fishing. Yeah. But overall, the sponsorships, you do have to, for me, I'm just trying to maintain, trying to really do all I can to know, show my worth as far as, and that's really it right now. And because there's not a lot of companies that come knocking on our doors.
No.
You can look at it you look at the top guys in our sport. You look at you and Brandon Pownick and Kevin Van Dam, Gerald Swindle. You don't see a lot of new companies coming in. Every now and then you do.
Right.
So it's man, you really just have to maintain those relationships and be okay with that. And that's where I've got is man, I'm okay with what I have right now. I'm perfectly content, but it is work. A lot of
hard work.
It's a lot of hard work.
I mean, I know because we've talked enough, but that's the point I wanted to make. And you hit it right on the head. It's not a given. Nothing's going to be given to you. You still have to work, right? And I think, and I agree with you. I think that in this stage of the sport, keeping sponsorships is a tough thing. It's gotten that difficult. The environment is that difficult right now for a lot of reasons. There's not one reason, but it's tough to maintain those sponsorships, and winning the classic or winning an elite or winning a Bass Pro Tour doesn't guarantee you sponsorship. You still got to work at it. You still got to work.
You still got to work, man. Yeah. And like I told you this off season, and I already made a YouTube video about it, which I don't mind saying it. I'm not too proud to, but I had my rods, come out in 2020. Didn't really, I was really excited about it.
Yeah.
And this past year, I had some viral fish catches and won a tournament on them. that was like, man, that was the time where I was like, oh, this is I've hit it on the head right here. And I had a big natural push to the rods because they saw how strong they were pulling from the grass. I was excited about it. And then I get a call, or get word of that, hey, we're going to discontinue your rods. They didn't sell great, and didn't sell enough. And that's just part of the, and you think about it, like I felt like in my mind, I'm like, man, they're doing really well. This is like how it's supposed to go. And you get a call and say, man, we're not going to make them anymore. And that's just part of fishing that, you realize, but it is hard. And I mean, it's hard to maintain everything you have in the fishing industry for sure.
Agreed. All right. So if you're listening, I know I'm going to look the camera in the eye for this one. Young men, young women, if you're listening, it's a lot of hard work, this business side. You're not just going to be fishing. So I want to stress that. I did want to jump back. I mentioned that this is long overdue. Congrats. I've said this to you a lot, but I want to say it to you on air here. Congrats on the return to the elites. Very, very, very stoked that you're fishing back at Bass. I'm over there. I love it. I like my return. I like the reasons that I came back. The feeling there is good for me. Jump to it. Jordan, last year, first year on paper looks great. Good year. Are you happy? How was the initial return back?
Yeah, man. I really enjoyed it. I fished really well on quite a few of the events. Honestly, I mean, probably 3/4 of the events I felt like, man, went great for me. I enjoyed it. It's always fun when you're catching them though. And when you're not, you can get a little sour as a competitor.
I know that feeling. I've had 3 sour years in a row, so I know that feeling.
Yeah, and you're a great angler, and I my worst events were I stayed at my own house and fished right down the road, and those are the ones you remember as a fisherman. You remember your bad tournaments. You don't think about your good tournaments, and but the good thing is nobody remembers your bad tournaments except you're the only person that remembers that.
Isn't it awful? Like it's so bad for me. Like honestly, as I got older, and then like met Becky, and getting older, and Becky has helped a lot. But dude, I still I have days when I'll be out in the shop and I see a lure or I see something that makes me remember a tournament. Literally, it could be from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm still fucking pissed about it. I'm like, God damn it, I made the wrong decision in that.
Yeah.
That stuff, as a competitive angler, it's funny because people don't see that, but it eats at you. And as
a fan, you just remember the good tournaments.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking, I thought about the Classic at Knoxville because they just announced the Classic was going to be in Knoxville.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the first things that came to mind was you catching them on that crankbait every cast. You would never, you probably don't even think about that.
No forward-facing sonar, by the way.
No forward-facing sonar. But you probably never think about that. But that's the type of memories too that people remember. They don't remember me coming at 90th at Wheeler Lake. Nobody cares. But
you're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. A lot of times it's not even the finish; it's the moment, like you said. So I got to give you my 2 favorite, Jordan. I have 2 favorites from last year that I love. I just think they're the best moments ever, and they don't really necessarily involve. One does, but they don't necessarily involve a high finish or a fish catch.
Yeah,
dude. The first one is, and I know you've probably talked about this before, but I have to bring it up because I just thought it was unbelievable. Is your fish catch from Lake Murray, where you've got the camera guys on you the first day, and literally you've got it out. You've got it out. You've got it out. You got junk in the hands, and dude, one bites. And so I think if you're an angler watching this, especially if you're a male, maybe not the same on the female side, but dude, that's happened to me so many times in 30 years. That moment, but this moment was caught on film. So I think so many people like me watched it, and I'm like, it happens to other people. I'm like, see, It happens to Jordan Lee too.
Oh yeah, that 2-pounder was my most viewed clip probably ever. I mean, more people saw that probably than me winning a tournament at any time.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so that was obviously a funny moment. Yeah, I was taking a leak and I'm doing terrible that day. I think I had 2 fish. It was the 3rd day. I kind of burned up a lot of the stuff that I was fishing, and I was just looking for new water. I'm like, man, the camera's not on me. Like, I'm probably in last right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just need to reset, take a piss, a fire drop shot out there. And I'm like, there's one on there. Well, they happened to be on me talking about like Angler of the Year because I was in the mix prior to that day. And anyway, they went to me live like the first time all day right then, and caught it on camera. It wasn't because, they were just going to me to talk about, hey, we're Angler of the Year, and that was just when I hooked up. Oh, he's hooked up. You can see the stream. It was funny. It was a good clip. I mean, a lot of people.
Such a good catch.
It was a good catch.
Such a good catch. And like I said, I think a lot of people watching that could relate to it. They had their own moments.
Oh yeah,
that
and a lot of people didn't realize that could be done too.
Yeah, right.
People that don't fish, they don't know, like, or they're just like, yeah, I didn't even think about that. That you can be taking a leak and reeling one in. Yeah,
I think you got. Yeah, I think you definitely got to have a good skill set with hand-eye coordination and with multitasking to be able.
No doubt.
It's kind of like shaking a minnow, where you're shaking your rod and
you're reeling at the same time.
It's kind of like shaking a minnow. You're shaking something else, but it's like shaking a minnow.
I agree.
The second one, and again, I think a lot of people can relate to this one. Wasn't at a bass event, but it was at you had qualified for heavy hitters this year, and it was so fun watching you wreck their asses on a frog, like unbelievable. I think for most bass anglers, like if you were to close your eyes and dream about a scenario, right, where you could catch big bass, that was it. So it was almost like a dream sequence happening, and the hook sets and the literally, dude, just through the grass, and then looking at that frog, fishing a swamp lord, like how beat up that whole thing intrigued me. I loved it, and I think that was the case for a lot of people. But the second part to that, and I did want to run it past you, is, dude, it was brutal with the infestation of other people that started to come in. I thought you handled it really well, because like right off instead of like waiting to the end, like right off the giddy, you're like, guys, I know this shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you in advance, like, y'all weren't there.
Yeah.
You just addressed it right off the giddy.
I did, man. It was such a special bite, and I knew, we fished separate days. Okay. So that's the first issue. But when I found them and when in practice, I knew there wasn't a lot of guys doing it. Number one, there wasn't anybody out. There was only maybe one other person out of the 30, but it was only 30 boats.
Yeah.
So there wasn't that many boats, right? But this was a very obvious bite visually on camera. You could see the frog marks, you could see the boat,
yellow cheese.
So I knew in practice when I found these fish, and in the going into the 3rd day, even my first day of the tournament, that hey, these areas have not been fished. Right. There's no evidence. Right. There's no evidence left behind of that. It doesn't look like Gunnersville after a frog tournament where there's 100 lines through the mats. These were pristine mats, and the only trails were from my frog basically on one end of this mat, and then, man, I had time to really expand and find a lot of different areas.
Yeah,
but I could visually see my day. I'm looking out in these mats, and I mean, there's no boats out there, and I know probably what's going to happen because I had so many bites, and this was just like a once in a lifetime kind of bite.
Yeah.
And so I knew after I led the first day that when the camera got in my boat, when this got on social media, people are going to be like, dude, why did I not throw a frog? And I get it, because the whole Toho was all hydrilla, and some people probably did throw a frog, but not in these areas.
Right.
Maybe one other person, which was Brandon Coulter. And maybe
he was the only other one that seemed like legitimately he found those.
Yeah, and maybe another person threw it around and got some bites. And I wasn't talking about that. I mean, I just knew, hey, there's going to be guys that don't throw it, and then they see it and they're going to be like tempted to go. And I get it. Like, the whole south end of that lake was hydrilla. So anyway, I addressed it up front. I'm like, look, I don't even know what I said. I said something about hashtag integrity. I'm sure a couple of guys got pissed about it, but I didn't care. I'm like, look, I know there's nobody out here. These fish were not fished. And so do not come in on this area where I'm fishing. And it's, especially on my day. But man, after that second day, I remember just the match just being all, after it got out. But that's just fishing, man. That's what happens. And you got to handle it on your days. Somebody's coming in, you got to protect your water. And that's what I did. And it, ended up getting like 6 or 7 bites the last day and ended up winning it. I mean, I didn't get many, fish catches. So
no, it was cool. And you're right. That stuff's been happening since the beginning of bass fishing.
Oh yeah.
And I actually thought the way you handled it was cool, because it kind of set a precedence before and just said, hey, here's my feeling on it, And guys are still going to do what they're going to do. But I thought that was kind of a ingenious way to handle it. Little bit different than what happened right up the road with Ish Monroe and Keith Poche years before that. That was a little different way to handle it.
A little different.
Little different. So speaking of MLF, I'd be wrong if I didn't ask you about this, because I've dealt with it myself. We have a lot of other anglers that have dealt with it or are in the process of making a change. And I do feel obligated to ask you, what was your reason for leaving Major League Fishing, leaving the Bass Pro Tour and deciding to come back to Elites? I got so many. I have my reason list was like about 10 deep. I had a lot of reasons, but did you have like, why did you decide to come back?
Well, I decided to come back really for just a couple reasons. I really thought I had success on the Bass Pro Tour. The format, I did not mind it personally. As far as my finishes, I'll say this: my finishes were I did well in the Bass Pro Tour, so I was good at the format. But I was really missing deep down, the weigh-in process, as far and really just being interactive with fans. And there was so many times on the Bass Pro Tour where, man, I was up in Mille Lacs or I was here, and you come back from fishing all day and you're like, you had a good day, you had a bad day, didn't really seem to matter. Everything's transitioning over there towards digital. They really care about their live stream, and and that's okay. That gets out to a lot of people, but the classic is something that I wanted to get back to. I miss fishing that event. That was one of the biggest reasons, and the format, going back to 5 fish. If Major League Fishing probably would have stuck out the 5 fish format, just because that's how I grew up fishing. That's how most of America relates. And I just felt like I enjoyed that more. And this year, it definitely, or this past year.
Yeah, me too. I mean, honestly, you checked off like 3 or 4 of the exact same reasons. So, I can relate to everything that you said.
Yeah, and just from a personal opinion, that's what, we grew up doing that. And hey, this year I really enjoyed the 5 fish format. I enjoyed everything about it. Whether I did good or didn't do well, I enjoyed it personally.
Yes. I'm testament to that because I've had 3 rough years and, couple mediocre and 1 really bad year. And I still feel better at the end of an event. And that tells you a lot, and again, this is everybody's personal decision. So the guys that stayed, I'm happy for them. The guys that are going elsewhere, I'm happy that they're doing that. And you have to do it for your own reasons. I'm curious though, like, did that every fish counts format end conjunction with forward facing sonar, did that have anything to do with the decision? Because it's funny now because I'm looking at it from afar, right? And I'm just saying, oh man, some of them guys are getting out of there because this forward facing shit's getting out of hand. And when you're catching every pound and a half or counts, you just blow it away, and it's changing the way tournament fishing is. Did that have anything to do with it? And if it did, does it piss you off now that MLF has sort of changed the format a little?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the format side of it, it seems like it's changed every year.
Yeah.
I thought when it went to 5 fish, I thought this is probably the fairest way, even though the weights cleared the 3rd day and the final day.
Yeah.
I just like the feel of it better.
Yeah.
I felt like every format has its challenges and whatnot, and they're all hard to win. It's not like any of them are easy. But
no, they're not easy.
That when you got to go to a lake and you do count a 110 or a 1.5 or whatever, or a pound and a half for man, it just, to a lot of people, a lot of hardcore tournament guys, it's kind of a turn off,
right?
And
right.
I mean, it's just a personal opinion, but I feel like in the fairness of an event, hey, this guy is the true winner of this tournament. I felt like the format that's set up by Bassmaster is just the fairest, purest form of bass fishing. And
I'd agree.
And
I'd agree. Yeah.
And it carries the most, I'm not going to say it carries the most clout, but it definitely, it's like, man, this guy won this tournament. He had the right game plan. He went out there and he did it. So
I agree. I will tell you this though, Jordan, and I don't know, did you get a chance to watch the new modified format? Did you watch it? I got to tell you, honestly, I thought it was better. Like from having watched it the last few years to watching it at Conroe, where guys had a little bit more strategy. They were forced to fish old school. Like I actually enjoyed it as a viewer. I enjoyed it. Now, you still got to use forward facing for a period or you lose, which I didn't like that, but I still thought it was enjoyable. And I'll get back and say this again. I still think they addressed forward facing where Bass just sort of left everything status quo.
I couldn't agree more. I was going to look at their schedule, but I really think it was brilliant. This tournament on Conroe, that was their one tournament. Probably it's going to be like a minnow top. They're all minnow tournaments at some point. It seems like, I mean, you can't get away from it, but this was a straight up pre-spawn tournament.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fish on bait. So you're going to have a hardcore, but I'm looking at their next one at the Harris Chain. You can scope fish there, but it's not easy. So I don't know. There's going to be some of their tournaments where you're not going to see it play as much.
Yeah.
Where their guys are just jamming them out, but you're going to have 1 or 2 guys that, they get on a forward bite and they take advantage of it. But then they out of transition. So
they have to. Yeah.
It's really cool. It's interesting. And I'm kind of one of those guys that I'm stuck in the middle a lot of times. And scoping, I've done well in some tournaments. And
you've done really well with it. You've adapted to the technology very well, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, but I'm still not on the same level as a lot of guys.
Yeah. It has, and this will be it. I don't want to talk about this anymore because it's like every freaking show.
We're not talking about it.
But it has changed, theoretically has changed everything, right? Like old enough, but young enough to have seen both and have experienced both. And I mean, it's still like I said, I've said this so many times in this podcast, but Jordan, my son is 14.
Yeah.
He loves it. He's good at it. It makes him want to go fishing.
Yeah.
How could I can't hate on that, but it has theoretically changed the way we fish. Like, for crying out loud, Jordan, look at Pickwick going on right now. The Dakota series going on there. Dude, 40 bags over 20.
Yeah.
10 of them in the mid 20s, one of them over 30. Like every single one of those, maybe not one, maybe like 39 of those.
Yeah.
All forward facing. Like,
oh yeah.
Like with you, that's your home. Basically, you know, that system, Tennessee River is one of your home places. Like,
yeah,
it just feels dirty. I don't know. I can't describe it. Does it feel dirty for you, or does it?
Yeah, it's really taken out a lot of techniques that have played over time. And I'm concerned on a couple different levels, but it has changed. It has changed tournament fishing 100%. Around here, especially on the Tennessee River. Like, man, I don't think I can go win a tournament anymore. That I don't think I have a shot. I'll say this: I don't think I have a shot anymore around here. If it was a stack field of guys, I don't think I can compete in a tournament. Probably most of the year because of the technology and the time that it takes to master it and find these fish is not something that you can go out in one day and figure this out. You see the younger group really dominating with this. A lot of it has to just do with time and amount of time they're able. If I had it back when I was in college and right after school, man, I was on the lake a lot. Right. I graphed a lot of Gunnersville. I fished a lot out there. I was kind of in tune with it.
Yeah.
But having that time to go search and find the little pieces of the puzzle and the little nuggets.
Yeah.
And they're giants that you can catch giant bags on this river.
There's never been bigger bags caught in the history. Maybe like if you look way back in like the early Gunnersville, like, you know, like 70s. But I'm talking about in the modern era. I can never remember seeing weights like this. Like it's just absolutely insane. Like I remember when you caught 20 on Pickwick in February or March, and dude, you were like the man.
Oh yeah,
you caught 20. You know,
and you know Pickwick's the kind of lake that now they're not getting many bites, but they have turned over every stone out there.
Right,
they're on the sneakiest stumps, hard spots. They have literally put their scope down and they know what they're looking at.
Right.
And they're going to turn over every rock on the lake to figure out what the fish are on. And they're going to get 7 or 8 bites and they're going to be giants. And they come in and it looks like, man, fishing's awesome on Pickwick. But in reality, dude, it's tough. And it's just changed the way tournament fishing really is. I mean, it's just changed fishing.
Yeah, it's changed fishing. I do want to jump back, and we kind of just brushed on it, but I want to jump back and tell you, I told you this story when it happened last year, but I want to tell this story on air. We were at the first event. You remember, we were at the first event, which was Toledo Bend, first Toledo Bend on Toledo Bend. And I was, we had a pre-meeting on the off day, and I was trying to make a point to literally go up to all the rookies, like everyone that I could find, and just say, hey, welcome, you know, congrats and welcome. And, you know, wanted to shake their hand and everything. And dude, I told you the story, but I had 2 or 3 of them tell me, you know, basically they said, I'm paraphrasing, but they said, man, it's so nice to be back with, you know, to be fishing here with these older veterans, and, you know, Jordan, and man, I've been watching Jordan since I was a kid, and to be out here with the veterans like Jordan feels so great. And my eyes went like this, and I was like, holy shit, they're calling Jordan a veteran. And, you know, because in my mind, you're still the young guy.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny. And I told you that story when we were at the gas station, but, you have been around a while now. Like, you are quietly, secretly, you are a veteran now. I guess the question I have for you, because I went through this in my life as well, in my career, what has changed right now? Like when you look in the mirror and you say, all right, here's me and my career at this stage.
Yeah.
Have things changed now that you are a grizzled old guy? You're not really, but
yeah.
Have things changed? Has your motivation changed? Has your like like your desire to win? Like you won the biggest stuff there is to win, right? So has that changed? Like being a dad, you talked about it, right? That's what's changed?
I mean, I've definitely changed. I think every human changes over a 10-year period. That's how long I've been fishing since, really, or maybe this is my 11th year, counting maybe the opens or whatever. But I think every human changes in 10 years. I definitely have. And it's all good though. I mean, I feel like I've figured out my way in fishing where, look, hey, I don't maybe have to go fish every tournament trail out there and grind, fishing 17, 18 tournaments a year or something like that. Like I feel comfortable with what I have in front of me with the companies I deal with, where I, split my time up between work and family and finding a great balance there. That's really important, I guess, to me now, being in my age. But I think I found, where I'm comfortable, where I feel like I'm doing the best, and where I'm comfortable. I mean, that's really all I can say.
Yeah.
Just with everything, with the tournament circuits, where I'm fishing at now, just all that. Like, I feel like, hey man, this is the track I'm good on right here. But yeah, it definitely changes. Like, I mean, 10 years ago, man, I don't know. I just felt like I'm not going to say more invested, but it just changes over time where you don't have as much free time, like I used to. So, I don't get to maybe learn as much on a quicker scale. And the area I live in is great for bass fishing, but I don't get to go, I'm not going fishing 5 days a week,
right?
Right. And that can make a difference, and that can sometimes that can feel like it hurts your performance. Not being able to just be out there as much, but I don't feel like I have to, and I don't really want to, I guess. I could, but it's just a different point in my life.
Right. I agree with all that. And I think you're right. You hit it on the head. It's just a natural progression. Like everybody goes through these changes. Your life changes, your career, your style, it all changes. And that's just a natural progression. I did want to mention this to you, and it does kind of lead up to this. I saved a fun little thing for the end here. It does lead up to that. But we just had I think it was a day or two ago, the 2025 Bass Fishing Hall of Fame nominations came out. And I did want to tell you this, and I don't know if anyone's ever told you this before. And I don't think you really grasp it until it happens. But Jordan, you realize that you're going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's an amazing thing, right? Like, so you have to be 50. That's the criteria. Like, that's in the rules. But dude, like the year you turn 50, your ass is in there.
Yeah,
that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Obviously, if I get to 50 at this point, I'll be excited. I won't really care about the Hall of Fame, but yeah, man. I mean, I've been truly. I mean, you hear people say it, but I have been. I could have never imagined when I was a kid to fish professionally. That's all I wanted to do, and to have the success I've had, man, and the people that I've met through fishing has been at my age now is like more than I could ever dream.
It's special.
It's special. And it's just really cool to see. But I mean, I've had an unbelievable career. Like, I mean, it really has been great, and I don't take any year for granted or anything, because it is getting harder and harder and harder. I feel like to succeed in our sport.
Yeah.
So it's hard to stay on top of things.
Yeah, it is. Well, you're going to be deserving when you get in, and when you get in, when you see your name there, it is a special thing. Like, you will honestly, it'll be one of the biggest things that has happened in your career and in your life, really. But that leads me to this. I just want to have fun with this, and you've had fun on our show so many times. I don't have a bunch of drunk guys now egging me on, so it's just me. Right. And I'm not as funny as some of the other guys in the old crew. So, but I thought this would be a fun little segment that, and again, this is official. I'm not announcing any secrets here. This officially came out just a couple days ago, and we have a really large. This is kind of why I thought it was fun. Normally, it's like 5 or 10 people on the ballot, and this year it's like, I don't know, it's like 15 or 20. I didn't even count. It's ridiculous. But
on the Hall of Fame ballot,
it's crazy. There's so many names there.
I saw it.
Yeah, I'm going to go through this list. I have it printed right out in front of me. I'm going to give you the name and just tell me what comes to mind. And again, guys, if you're watching and listening, this isn't a joke. This is, especially when I start with the first one, this is not a joke. These are the true 2025 Bass Fishing Hall of Fame contestants, I guess.
How many people do they take?
They take
every year.
That varies too. So when I was inducted, there was 3. I think last year with Skeet, there was 5 or 6. So that varies. But here they go. And remember, here's the game, Jordan. I'm going to give you the name.
Yeah.
Tell me what comes to mind.
Gotcha.
You know? Okay. And by the way, just for a sake of fun. And just for sake of not like throwing anyone under the bus, this is alphabetical. Okay.
Yeah. Alphabetical.
Okay. So person number 1 on the ballot for the Hall of Fame, Boyd Duckett.
2007 Classic champ. First time I ever saw Boyd Duckett. That was a huge win. Creator of Major League Fishing.
Okay. Yeah. So good credentials, maybe deserving. Number 2, David Dudley. Actually, I'm going to say where they're from too. Boyd Duckett was Gunnersville, Alabama. David Dudley, Lynchburg, Virginia.
A wacky worm specialist. I think he's the FLW all-time money winner. Has made a unbelievable career. He had a heyday, I think Dudley did.
Yeah.
From the early 2000s to, let's say, 2012, 13.
Kick ass.
Where he dominated. Every tournament you saw David Dudley, it was first, second, third, fourth, fifth, every time.
Yeah.
And he's had an incredible career.
Great career. And I would mention the famous, and I mentioned this before on like live show. I can't remember. We one of them in the past, but he had a magazine cover with FLW where his nutsack was hanging out. Yeah. And they didn't catch it and they approved the cover.
Yes.
They got through like 1,000 copies, and the things like literally you can imagine like Laverne and Shirley, it's shooting off the press. Like,
I wonder if he got more sponsor deals after that.
I don't know, but somebody finally looked at it like, guys, his nutsack is hanging out. Like, you can't print this. All right, just thought I would say that. All right, number 3, amazing. Dion Hibden, Versailles, Missouri. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Missouri.
I actually fished with Dion as a co-angler one time. I was the co-angler, but Dion, man, I think really just a legend of the sport. I know Dion won the Classic, son of Guido. They're a fishing family.
Yeah.
He had a great, I don't know if he fishes anymore. Professionally, I don't think he does, but man, he had a great career. I know back in the day, Dion especially was a threat. And, I think he was just a great ambassador in that era.
Good ambassador. Yeah. Good ambassador. And I think he's got 2 championships, an FLW and a Bassmaster Classic. So that's special.
He won the cup too.
Randy Hopper, Flipping, Arkansas.
Randy Hopper, I don't really know him. I think he works at Ranger. Worked at Ranger.
Yeah.
Worked at Ranger. I think he was a little bit before maybe my time there. So I've never met Randy.
Yeah.
So I don't really know much about him.
Yeah. I guess I'm at 5 here. Don Avino, Burbank, California.
I'm not familiar with Don.
Okay. Don Avino. Yeah. Don Avino, he's a West Coast finesse guy. A lot of guys don't know him. So he's on there.
I'm sorry, Don.
That's all right. No. And nobody, if any of these guys are watching and listening, you shouldn't be offended because we're just reading the names off.
Yeah.
Craig Lamb, Tennessee.
Craig Lamb, I think of a longtime editor at Bassmaster. Yeah. I've talked to Craig throughout the years a million times.
Me too.
He's a great guy.
Good guy.
I like Craig. I know what he's done for the sport, what he's done for the magazine. Yeah, he's definitely been in the sport a long time. Not a fisherman, but in the editorial side for Bassmaster.
Yeah, he deserved. By the way, I will break my silence here and say I think he deserves it. I hope Craig gets in because
Craig's a great person.
Yeah, he's been there from the Ray Scott days. It's pretty amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Pam Martin Wells, Bowman, Georgia.
I think Pam Martin Wells is the OG Christine Fisher for all the people watching it.
It's a good analogy. Good analogy.
She's fished the Classic maybe twice. I feel like she had a lot of success, especially when they had the women's tour. She was dominant on that. But, yeah, she's a lady fisherman that's really done well over the years, especially, I don't know, around the time the elite started. That's when she,
yeah. I think that's a good nomination. I think that opens it up to the different genders, and I would always encouraging of more women to get involved. So I'm happy to see her on this list. Next one you're going to know, Dave Mercer, Port Perry, Ontario, the only Canadian. I wonder if are we also going to tariff his nomination?
Yeah, we're going to tariff. We're going to get some money out of him. We got to bring more money in the U.S.
Yeah. Dave, you're nominated, but we're taxing you for your nomination. So pay pay the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
What surprised me?
Canada needs to be taxed on that. Mercer, man, he's the longtime announcer, Bassmaster. I feel like he's definitely, I don't know how many years he's done it now.
A lot.
But I would say 15 years, maybe close to it.
I would say for sure. Yeah.
But he's done a fantastic job. Yeah. I feel you think of Mercer, you think of Zona, you think of them as the personalities of Bassmaster, and he's just done an incredible job. I don't think anybody could have fit that spot better than him, honestly. From the Classic to he's announced some of those wins for me. He just does an incredible job on stage.
Yeah,
I think he's well-deserved for that nominee.
Yeah, he deserves to be on this list for sure. The next one is actually, he was on last year's nomination list, didn't get voted in, but he's on it again. Andy Morgan, Dayton, Tennessee.
Andy Morgan, man, I think of one of the most natural, gifted, old-school bass fishermen, flipping, pitching.
Yes. Probably
the best flipper that is out there. If you watch him flip bushes and watch him put a bait into certain places, I don't think there's anybody that could do it better than him.
I would agree.
And he's an old school guy that, just amazing outdoorsman, deer hunter, bass fisherman, old school as it gets. But dude, he, especially FLW days, it was a clinic every year.
Clinic. I'd agree. I'd put him up there with Denny and Biffle as far as the most talent ever with that big rod in their hand. That's a good nomination. There's a lot of good ones coming. It's hard to even put any of these ahead of each other. But John Murray, Spring City, Tennessee, formerly of out on the West Coast in Arizona.
Honestly, the first thing that comes to John is a West Coast angler that.
Yeah,
especially was dominant in, I don't know what, 90s, 2000s era, 2000s era, who won probably more tournaments than anybody.
Yeah.
West.
Yeah, his list of bass boat wins, like it was something ridiculous, and I don't want to butcher it, but it's like in the hundreds or something, and I'm like, I can't even imagine winning 100 boats.
He won a lot of boats,
It's
more than
crazy.
anybody, and yeah, man, he's just from that era on the West Coast that it just was. I think it was the special times back then over there, but he's had a great career. Fished Bassmaster for years, fished Major League Fishing for years, but is a West Coast legend for sure.
Yeah. Let's see here. Next one is Takahiro Omori, and they list Emory, Texas as his hometown, but I would say Takahiro is an international angler.
Oh yeah.
Tio.
Man, Takahiro probably has one of the most famous classic wins of all time. 2004 Lake Wiley. I feel like
I knew it.
I mean, that was just sick. I mean, honestly, awesome. that was one of, between you and him, I feel like those are some of the most. I mean, you could go on and on about
that's a pump you up win. It pumps you up.
Pump you up win.
Yeah.
That was one of those winning moments that changed his whole career.
Yeah.
And he is still an animal on the water.
Still an animal.
Takahiro can absolutely put on a clinic any day. He's a power fisherman. Man, he's had a great career. I think he set the standard. Maybe there was somebody before him, but he really set the standard for the international anglers.
He did. Yep, he did. I would agree. Let's see. Rick Pierce, Mountain Home, Arkansas.
Rick Pierce, I think of Bass Cat Boats. I think of a person who's probably had a lot of inspiration for a lot of anglers and helped out a lot of anglers over time building that boat. I think I feel like Rick, I don't know Rick personally, but just from the outside looking in, I feel like he cares a lot about our sport and our industry. I just see what he sponsors, what he puts his money into. And I can tell he really cares about our sport and really just enjoys it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Rick deserves to be on that list. A lot of history in the sport of fishing with him and his family, his father especially. These next ones, I'm just going to run past these next ones because some of these are historical. So, this list is so long. We're just going to run past these. E.A. Pfluger, of course, or the rod and reel fame of Akron, Ohio. Lynn Reeves from Springfield, Missouri. William Shakespeare Jr. of rod and reel history there. From Kalamazoo. I never knew that. I never knew there was someone else famous from Kalamazoo besides Kevin. That's interesting. Mike Whittaker from Tuscaloosa. He was an early Redman Operation Bass guy. Cool guy. It's cool name to have on the list. And then I'll end. There's three more, but I'll end. Bill Taylor from Kentucky. Bill's a good one, right? He deserves to be on there.
Longtime tournament director.
Yeah.
He's the triple Elden of FLW.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bill's been he was a long time tournament director. Great guy.
Great guy. And I've never heard a better Bill Taylor imitation than Swindle. He has a great Bill Taylor.
He does. Yeah, I've heard it before. Yeah.
It's really
a lot of people are Luke Duncan. A lot of people have been around Bill Taylor a long time that can basically talk better than Bill Taylor can.
That's right, Luke. Yeah, Duncan does a good one too. I forgot. That's right. Yeah, he does a good one. All right, here we go. I'm going to give you the last three. Zell Rowland, Montgomery, Texas.
Feel like the OG Popar fisherman. He I remember one of the first tournaments, or not one of the first tournaments. Well, yeah, one of the first tournaments I went to, he won was at Gunnersville, right? Maybe before the year you won over there, 2005-ish. He won on a jig. Man, Zell was a badass. I mean, he's just smoking them cigs. I mean, y'all think Seth Fighter is that, Zell has smoked. I mean,
he smoked circles around Seth Fighter.
He smoked circles around Seth. That's just being funny, but he has Zell. I remember, he's just smoking, throwing that Popar. I mean, he was dangerous on the water, like as far as a tournament threat. In in that era. But really just an OG hard ass.
OG. He's well deserving. I think he belongs on that list.
I love Zell.
I love Zell too.
He kind of took us not really under his wing, but my brother, when we were coming in, we were working with Pradco, and Zell was on the team, man, and he was always just. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he was always just super nice to us.
Super nice. Yeah, and very matter of fact. I always liked that, like where other guys would, had the Kevin Van Dam syndrome where they're afraid to speak their mind. Like Zell always
speak
straight up. Good or bad, he was straight up. And I like that. I like that.
Yeah, he made us laugh.
Yeah. Last two. Clark Wendelet from Texas.
Clark, first thing that comes to mind is Wheaties box. He was on the Wheaties box.
He was on the Wheaties box.
He won Angler of the Year many years with FLW, also won at Bassmaster. Yeah. Probably had one of the most consistent careers. I think of an incredible sight fisherman. I don't know. He always did everything by the book.
Yeah.
And I promise you, Clark Wendlandt never probably broke a rule. And he always just did things the right way. I think he's a great one to be on the list.
Good one for the list. Sorry to see him go. He retired this year. Definitely gonna miss competing against him, with him. And then last, maybe definitely least, or maybe not definitely least, or probably least. Last is Jim Wilburn, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Jim Wilburn. Yeah, we'll just go past him.
And there you have it, guys. Yeah. All right. That was my attempt at an old Ike Live skit. It didn't really work that good, but I thought the insight was great. And again, guys, if you're watching, listening, they're all real nominations. Look forward to seeing who gets selected. It's going to be interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting to say the least. All right, Jordan, I've kept you way longer than I wanted to. One last question. This is the grand finale of this interview. Start of the season, literally, so this is going to air probably like a week or something from now. So, so people are listening to it and they're kind of like thrown off a little bit, but we are recording, dude, we're like a week away basically from the start of the season. Expectations, like, is your energy high? And then what do you expect to see out of the first two Florida events?
Yeah, I'm excited to get everything going. I'm excited. It looks like, from what we can see now, the weather is going to be solid. It looks like it's going to be warm, which for Florida fishing, we've been down there when it's warm. We've been down there when it's cold. Cold is no good.
Not good.
Not good. You're not going to have fun.
Florida strain bass do not like cold fronts.
You're not going to have fun. It's not going to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
You may do really well in the tournament, but it may not be. So that's kind of exciting. I think that gets guys' hopes a little bit higher than seeing 20 degrees.
Yeah.
I am excited about the year just to get things going. You always have a little anxiety, but it's normal. Just, you don't know how the year is going to go and all that. But that's the exciting part of bass fishing is you just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know year to year who's going to do what. So I'm excited about the year, but Florida, we get things going in a couple days from this airing. So St. John's River, I see being a really good tournament. I kind of hate that it's the same. There's been so many tournaments there.
It's a little bit of a broken record.
It's a broken record. It's like, man, can we not invent some lakes to fish?
Yeah.
That's the one thing that it puts a damper just to see the same old lakes.
And Rodman is off limits this year, which it's hard to. I'm trying to wrap my hands around that, but I think overall it's going to be more crowded probably in other places, right? Because all that kind of stuff is out of the equation. Yeah.
And the St. John's River is really not. It's long, but it doesn't seem to fish big.
Does it fish big?
Florida's the same. I mean, Okeechobee's the same.
Okeechobee's worse.
Okeechobee's worse. And I went down to Okeechobee and the St. John's. It was kind of a waste. I mean, it's never a waste, but Okeechobee, I hadn't been down there in years, probably 5 years, but the lake did not look good. I think
A lot of dirty water.
A lot of dirty water, and it could change. That could change a little bit.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing with the Florida lakes, man, is the emergent grass, and that's something that they're either going to figure out or they're not. They're either going to care about it or they're not.
Right.
You see a lake like Conroe, they just whacked them in the MLF. There's grass back in the lake.
Yep.
If the St. Johns River and Okeechobee would figure out if and maybe they will. Maybe they're going to try to get in the Harris chain, get hydrilla back in those lakes, man. They will be
hydrilla, milfoil, even the native eelgrass, Jordan.
Anything. Bass fishing would explode. But until that happens, man, they're not going to be great unless it's just a perfect couple of weeks to bass fish. And maybe we're going to hit that with Okeechobee where we'll hit a perfect storm. It's going to be like 90 degrees down there. I mean, we may hit it where it doesn't matter, but the lake's not in good shape.
Right. Well, I am with you. I am definitely excited about the start of a season, especially I think for me, when you have a couple bad ones, you're just ready to get going again and turn the tide.
That's right.
And then the other thing too, I want to mention before I let you go here is, Jordan, this is my, if I start the clock at the first pro event I ever fished, so like invitational, back on the pro on pro draw, not as a co-angler, not going back that far, but when I fished my first pro event.
What was that?
1995, spring of 1995 on Lake Hartwell. My first day partner was Charlie Ingram. I can't make this up. Unbelievable. But that was the start of my career. So this year, Jordan, is my 30th year. I am so excited to share the water with you this year. It's a milestone year for me. It may be my last. It may be not my last. I may have 10 more years ahead of me. I don't know. But I'm very proud of the 30th year. And I'm glad that you're back at Bass. I'm happy to be sharing the water with you. And
I am too. And I want to mention this before I leave. I know there's probably still some people watching, but back I went to, I've told you this story before, but in 2006, you won the elite on Gunnersville. You had the flames going. I mean, I've told you this a million times, but I remember walking up to your boat vividly. I can still remember it now. And you had this giant tube on your deck. And you were sitting there explaining it to me. You just won a tournament. And you were like the superstar of the week. I remember you explaining like this is what I was bed fishing with. I think you gave me a couple baits or whatever. You were just so nice to me back then. And dude, that sticks with young anglers, and I mean, I don't know how old you were then, but that was a really cool moment. So
that's awesome.
I've always been a fan. And that's cool to share the water with you again.
Well, I appreciate it, Jordan. I love hearing those stories. It makes you feel good. I've done a lot of the other shit in my career too. So when I hear the good stuff, it feels nice. So thank you for telling me that story. And thank you for coming on the show, dude. Definitely long overdue. I appreciate you carving out almost an hour with us. So thank you. Thank you very much for coming on. And
thanks for having me.
Dude, I'll literally see you in like less than a week.
Yeah. I'll see you in a couple days.
All right, Jordan. Safe travels.
Right, be careful, dude.
Okay. We'll see you.
Enjoyed it. See you
later. All right, guys. There you have it. Oh, man. Jordan Lee. So great to have him on. Like I said, a long time in the making. Was trying to get him on last year, right before the Elite. So definitely worth the wait. Always fun having Jordan on, getting some insight really into the mind of, he'll go down as one of the best anglers ever in the history of the sport. So really good guy. Amazing angler. Glad to have him on the show. Let me remind you guys, listen to me. If you're watching, listening, please leave some comments. Leave a comment right now. Go over to the comment section. Drop us a comment. Who do you want to see on the show? Who do you want to hear from? What are the topics? Let us know what you're thinking, feeling. We definitely look at that stuff and we try to cater the shows toward what you want. Also want to remind you that this show is brought to you by Abu Garcia, the maker of some unbelievable rods and reels, including the Ike Series 3.0. And guess what? You can get those rods and reels at Tackle Warehouse. Everybody I know shops at Tackle Warehouse. Head on over to tacklewarehouse.com. They always got some great deals going on over there as well. last but not least, brought to you by the Ike Foundation. Guys, if you want to help grow the sport, if you want to help get new kids fishing, that's the only way we're going to grow it. New kids, new youth, new blood in the sport. If you want to help with that, head on over to the IkeFoundation.org and get some info on how you could help out. Guys, I appreciate you watching. Until the next show, never give up. Bye.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish for passion? Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life.
You know, right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. You know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes. But they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers, where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
No.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us.
Yeah.
We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you.
Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U is definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.
Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.